Okay, where do I begin? In one of my last videos, I talked about buying a flower shop, so I think I'll start there. I did not buy the flower shop. It just wasn't the right time. And now that all this has happened, I'm really glad that I didn't. Last year, my mother moved in with me last May. It was supposed to be temporary. So then in December, without getting into too many details because it's her business, but she had a major health situation and then had a major complication to that health situation, which kind of left her a different person. And it left me being her caregiver full-time caregiver for a few months. Then we had to wait until she was independent enough to take care of me because I really needed to have a hysterectomy. I have been dealing with uterine fibroids for my entire adult life. They were growing and growing and growing, pushing on organs, making me look pregnant. I had actually had a procedure called uterine artery embolization about 7 years ago, which did shrink my fibroids, but they started growing again and getting out of hand. So I knew that I needed to have a hysterectomy. So I waited until my mother was more independent and scheduled my hysterectomy. When I met with my gynecologist, she was pretty sure she could do it laparoscopically. Because they were so big, I was really afraid that I was gonna have to have a vertical incision down my abdomen to get them out. But she assured me that there was absolutely no way that she was doing a vertical incision. I think she even said, quote, "That's not a thing." So I felt confident that I was either going to have a laparoscopic hysterectomy or worst case scenario, it was going to be like a C-section line on my lower abdomen. It's surgery day. Okay. I wake up from surgery with a vertical incision this long. My doctor tells me that she put a camera in my abdomen laparoscopically, took a look around, and saw the extent of my fibroids. First of all, they were rock hard, and I think that they were calcified like that because of that uterine artery embolization that I had 7 years ago. That restricted the blood flow to them and essentially just like shrunk them like this. So I'm pretty sure that's why they got calcified. But anyway, not only were they rock hard, but there was one the size of a grapefruit and then about 8 the size of plums. So it was, she said my uterus weighed 3.3 pounds with all these fibroids in them. Okay. So that's why she had to do the vertical incision that she said was not a thing. I ended up having to spend the night in the hospital because it was a much more serious surgery than intended. It was supposed to be outpatient. So I was home Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then early Wednesday morning, I started getting the shakes and pain in my abdomen. So we're talking like 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So my mother and I were monitoring my fever on Wednesday. It got up to 103.5 degrees. Pain in my abdomen never went away. So then the next morning, this is Thursday morning, woke up with a still blazing fever and pain in my abdomen. Now, when you have surgery on your abdomen, they tell you to make sure that you are moving your bowels. You don't want to get constipated because you don't want to have to like bear down, and it hurts when you have this, major incision in your abdomen. So I thought, and this is on Thursday morning, let me give myself an enema because I know this pain in my stomach is some kind of blockage and I need to get this out. And I also thought that maybe this blockage was what was causing the fever. So I managed, and mind you, coffee enemas are something that I give myself once or twice a month anyway. I'm really comfortable with them, familiar with them. I've been doing it for years. So I inserted the coffee enema. and I immediately released it. And when I did, there was blood everywhere. There was a popping sound in my body, like that, and then just the most blinding, excruciating pain that I have ever felt. Excruciating to the point that I would have screamed if I was home alone, but my mother being there, I didn't want to freak her out, so I was just like writhing in pain, sweat just pouring off my body. It was an unbelievable feeling. I just sat there just kind of just like thinking it has to subside. Like it was so intense that it had to subside, and it just did not. So I made my way to my bed and I laid there. I called for my mother to come and I said, Mom, something was really wrong. Get my phone, I have to call 911. The only way that I would call 911 is if I was sure that I was probably dying. So I call 911, the ambulance gets there. I managed to somehow, with their help, walk down my stairs, get into their gurney, and they take me to the nearest hospital. So I'm at the ER at this hospital. I'm writhing in pain. Then the shakes started, and I started shivering so badly that my whole body was convulsing. Because my hysterectomy occurred at a different hospital, there's something called continuity of care, where no other doctor or surgeon will take the case. So I had to be transferred from my closest hospital to the hospital that I had my surgery at to continue this. So they get me into a transport vehicle. So then I'm in the ER at this other hospital, the hospital that I had my hysterectomy at. They did a CT exam, blood tests. So they plopped me in a room and basically said, the surgeons that did your hysterectomy are gonna come here and talk to you. So a couple hours later, sure enough, I have my gynecologist who did my hysterectomy and another guy. And they proceed to tell me that during my hysterectomy, my gynecologist perforated my bowel. What happened was my very large fibroid uterus had adhered itself to, the back had adhered itself to my colon. And so as she was trying to separate it from my colon, she perforated it by mistake. She ended up calling in a general surgeon while I was under to help her with the removal of my uterus and the separation of my uterus and the organs that it was attached to. I also found out that there was endometriosis in there that I'd never been diagnosed with. I'm 45 years old, never knew that I had endometriosis. And they explained to me that when I did the enema, my colon burst open, and I was lying there with this coffee enema that I'd put inside my body, blood, fecal matter, all just swimming inside of my abdomen. I was in severe sepsis, and I needed to have emergency surgery like right at that moment, right then. When you hear sepsis, it's a scary word to hear because it's bad. It's really bad. There's a high mortality rate. It's a scary thing to have. They also told me that doing this repair of my abdomen, since it had burst open, they were going to have to cut a piece of my colon out, the part that was damaged, and then let the rest of my bowel rest and heal because there was so much infection in my body. And during that healing process, I was going to have a colostomy bag. they said that I'd have to have it for 3 to 6 months. I don't even really know what to say to that, but it's a scary thing, and it's daunting, and it's all the things that you're thinking. Anyway, I went into surgery, they did the repair, and then I got out of surgery and was in the hospital. They were pumping me full of antibiotics because they're trying to kill this infection. My white blood cell count was sky high. At one point, my hemoglobin was really low. I had to have a blood transfusion while I was in the hospital. They had cut back through that same vertical incision that she'd cut for my hysterectomy. So I had this fresh, new, very large wound. I had this colostomy bag that I had to learn about and deal with. And then, fever and all of this stuff going on from dealing with this, trying to get rid of this sepsis in my body. It was a lot. I was in the hospital for 7 nights, and I have now, as of today, recording this, I've been home for 6 days. I'm feeling really good. They sent me home with loads of antibiotics. At this point, I'm just trying to get through this. I'm just trying to focus on the other side of this recovery. When they reverse the colostomy, that will be another major surgery that I'll have to recover from. But one step at a time.